Hello, I am today about trauma-informed care as a way to understand maybe some of your fear and fear behaviors. Before I go on, if you live in the United States, I want to make sure that you're aware of the national call centers that you can reach out to for help if you need it. And if I share something with you today that causes you to feel like you have a need or an emotional feeling in some way, you do get some help. Trauma-informed care is a framework for all human interactions. As we move forward, you'll understand that trauma is very pervasive, very common in our society. What is it? Trauma is an event or a series of events or circumstances that an individual experiences that affects them physically or emotionally or both, that the person sees as harmful or life-threatening. And this threat affects a person in terms of their mental, psychological, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, and it can be manifested in behaviors that are related to fear and a lack of confidence. And I'm sharing this because it is common, so that you'll give yourself grace. And if this information resonates with you, that you will get help for yourself through your employer. Find some help. So when it comes to this definition, it's not to be judged. We can't judge a person's trauma, a person's pain, or their experiences, nor should you judge yourself. You must show grace to yourself, understanding that ongoing trauma can lead to feelings of being burned out, compassion fatigue. So maybe you feel like you don't relate or connect to some things. It might be because of some aspects of your history. Again, no shame, no blame. We're encouraging you to get help because we teach on the premise of act. Acknowledge that you need help. C, change your mindset. So you have to change your mindset about yourself, have a new conversation with yourself, and be willing to transform. Because you can be stuck in an old way, stuck in fear, stuck in your past, and then you'll never transform and become fully the person that you were meant to be. So overall, trauma-informed care shifts how we think, and we start to ask a different question. Rather than saying, when something happens, what's wrong with me, or why did I respond that way, or why did that person yell at me or snap at me when all I did was ask a simple question. A trauma-informed mindset, because we're changing our mindset as we acknowledge. Trauma-informed care considers what has happened to you, or you may ask yourself, what has happened to me that causes me to respond, or causes that person to respond in a certain way when something happens. Like if the lights go out, people become afraid. If they always want to sleep with the lights on, or if they jump when there's a loud noise, or anytime you're at work and your supervisor maybe says, no, that's not going to work right now, you take it personally because of something that happened in your past. You feel rejection. So it's important, again, not to judge our behaviors or others, but to understand them. What is the core? So adverse childhood experiences, the research has shown us, are potentially traumatic events that happen to children between 0 and 17. They can be a singular event or a prolonged threat based on the life experiences with their parents. And ACEs can have long-term effects on that childhood's well-being, even into adulthood, if no one steps in, if they don't have the courage to do what you are doing, which is to inform and educate yourself. And so we know from the research the ACEs have an impact. Adverse childhood experiences can have an impact even in the first 2 months of life. We can start getting negative wiring. The wiring of the brain is being impacted by stress and trauma. So examples of ACEs may include experiencing abuse, violence, neglect, witnessing violence in your home or community, having a family member attempt to die or suicide, growing up in a household with mental illness or substance abuse problems, instability, parental separation, divorce, and incarceration. So these are just examples. And I would add to that the floods, the natural disasters that people have experienced, the wars people are experiencing around the world. All of this is going to have our ACEs, and they're going to have an effect. They are having an effect on behavior. So we want to be sensitive. And then you add the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, it was estimated that 60% of all Americans had at least one adverse childhood experience. Now you layer the pandemic on that, and you kind of have a whole society that's been traumatized. Also, trauma has deep roots. It can have a adverse historical and multi-generational impact. African Americans, for example, who were taken from their homelands, put into slavery, been slaves, then had to deal with Reconstruction, then had to deal with Jim Crow, and then had to go through lynching and segregation, and then had to go through the civil rights. And so all of these things impacted this culture and has created behaviors and mindsets. So the same is similar to our indigenous people, our indigenous families, people of Jewish descent. They're just other examples of generations of cultures that have been impacted. One of the facts that is important to remember around adverse childhood experiences, again, is that the research has shown that the impact of trauma can transcend 3 generations. 3 generations. And if you have grandparents or family members who are older, perhaps they have shared with you things you should or shouldn't do because of who you are, what you look like, and what you believe. I recall, growing up during the civil rights era, and my parents telling me I was going to be called a nigger, telling me how to respond, telling me that people wouldn't like me, telling me how to stand and position myself. If I have a family, as I have young people in my life, I will tend to coax them in the same way and give them the same guidance that maybe I was given. So behaviors, beliefs are shared and are continued in cultures, often through parenting, through our faith communities, and through the communities that we live. So the roots are deep, they grow wide and long, and can have an impact. So as you think about your fears, who you are, who you've become, how has your culture, your race, your community, your lived experiences impacted your fear, your confidence, or lack of confidence thereof? Because it's not that we want to live in the past, it's that we want to know how to embrace the future. And so in order to do that, we must understand our history, we must understand our triggers, so that we can develop a mindset of different beliefs and behaviors that can propel us to success. So as I shared with you Children's experiences from trauma can negatively impact the brain. It can change the structure, size, and impair the emotional and behavioral functioning of that child into adulthood. So, if a person finds that they can't sustain a relationship, that they're always insecure in a relationship, that they need constant affirmations from other people, that they're short-tempered, and that could be impacting their career success. It could be because of experiences in their childhood. And so the idea is to become aware and then get the help. Through awareness, you can change and get the help that you need for success. This also helps us have and show grace for other people because we live in community. So we work in communities. We have work communities. And how are we functioning? Do we have coworkers that maybe really get on our nerves? And you're wondering, why do they always fly off the handle when I ask them a question? Why can't they follow through in a task? Why are they so insecure? When you're trying to, pour into them. It could be because of their past. Now, I know we have to be careful. We can't say some things at work. We have to be respectful. But understanding and treating everyone with grace and compassion and creating that safe environment as an employee, as a friend, as a leader can help us engage and with them and so that we're better ourselves and everyone can have a win-win. So adverse childhood experiences can ultimately lead to disruptive neurodevelopment, social and emotional and cognitive impairment, adoption of health risk behaviors like drinking and drugs, and ultimately stress and trauma can result in chronic diseases, impacting our immune systems, and can result in early death. All of this can start as early as conception in the womb. So no one necessarily walks up to you and says, hey, did you know I wasn't given a lot of development in the womb, in nurturing after I was born, and so I'm having some struggles. We don't always know, and we don't have those conversations. However, we want to walk and live with a mindset of compassion and love so that we consider that potentially with the number of people that have had trauma in their lives, maybe the person I'm talking to has too. So I want to consider what has happened in their life, not what is wrong with them, so that we lend and live with compassion. Because most often, when we think about it, we're dealing with the pain of the past, hurt of the past, with other people and within ourselves. And that's why it's important to acknowledge that you might have some challenges, make a conscious decision to be courageous and have confidence so that you can move from where you were and go to where you desire to be. Is it easy? No. But is it possible? Absolutely yes. So it's important to consider what has happened, not what is wrong. It's important that you show grace to yourself, you show grace to others, that you understand that your fears, some of your insecurities may have been rooted in your early development. It's not a judgment, but having that awareness can empower you to get the help that you need to, again, be your best, reach your goals, ignite your confidence so that you can have the life that you enjoy, that you desire. I hope that has helped build your confidence today. I'm Dr. Melanie Gray, your confidence coach. If this was helpful, please subscribe to us, like us, leave a comment so it helps us know what else you'd like to know in our next post. So make it a great day.